Stop what you're doing for just a moment. Look at your hands. Right now, as you listen to this, you think you're in control. You think the decisions you make are yours. You think the actions you take are choices. But I'm about to show you something that will fundamentally change how you see yourself. You're on autopilot. Not sometimes. Not occasionally. Right now. This very second. 43% of everything you do today you won't actually decide to do. You will just do it. Automatically. Unconsciously. Like a program running in the background of your mind that you never wrote, never reviewed, and certainly never agreed to install. This is not a metaphor. This is not motivation poster philosophy. This is neuroscience. This is the architecture of the human brain, and it has been hijacked by patterns you do not recognize, triggered by environments you do not control, all in service of an identity you never consciously chose. Welcome to the autopilot paradox. The more efficiently your brain runs your life, the less of your life you are actually living. But here is the extraordinary thing. You can reprogram it. Not easily, not overnight, but systematically, scientifically, completely. And by the end of this documentary, you will know exactly how. Let me introduce you to three people. Three ordinary people living extraordinary prisons of their own construction. Meet Kareem, 28 years old, marketing analyst. Lives alone in a one-bedroom apartment in the city. If you asked him, he would tell you he is doing fine. Not great, not terrible. Simply fine. Every morning Kareem's alarm goes off at 6:45 a.m. He hits snooze. Not once, not twice, 3 times. Always 3 times. He finally drags himself out of bed at 7:14, rushes through a shower, grabs his phone, and scrolls through social media while eating yesterday's leftover pizza for breakfast. He tells himself every single morning that tomorrow will be different. Tomorrow, he will wake up on time. Tomorrow, he will eat something healthy. Tomorrow, he will go to the gym before work. But tomorrow never comes. Because Kareem is living the same day over and over again, trapped in an invisible loop that starts the moment he opens his eyes. Meet Cosmo, 35 years old, software engineer. Brilliant, actually. Her code is elegant, her problem-solving sharp, but she cannot finish anything. Her apartment is filled with half-read books, abandoned hobbies, equipment for activities she swore she would start. A guitar with 2 broken strings, running shoes that have never touched pavement, a journal with exactly 3 entries from January 2 years ago. Cosmo's not lazy. She works 12-hour days. But she is scattered, distracted. Her environment is chaos, physical chaos that mirrors mental chaos. Every surface in her home is covered with stuff. Her desk, her kitchen counter, her nightstand. Clutter creates more clutter, and in that clutter, her focus dies 1,000 small deaths every single day. Meet Petsy, 42 years old, high school teacher, the kind everyone describes as nice and helpful, and always there when you need him. Petsy never says no. He volunteers for every committee, helps every colleague, stays late to tutor students, sacrifices weekends for school events, and he is miserable. Petsy has a novel he wants to write, has wanted to write for 15 years, but he is too busy being the person everyone else needs him to be. He has built an entire identity around service, around selflessness, around being indispensable. The problem? That identity is a cage. And deep down, in the moments of quiet honesty, he rarely allows himself. Petsy knows he is disappearing into a role he never wanted to play. 3 people. 3 different prisons. 1 common warden. Autopilot. Now, before we dive into how to break free, we need to understand the enemy. And I use that word deliberately. Your autopilot is not neutral. It is not just running in the background, harmlessly managing minor decisions. It is actively working against your stated goals, your conscious desires, your vision of who you want to become. Why? Because your autopilot was programmed by your past. And unless you have had a perfect past, which you have not, Your autopilot is running outdated software filled with bugs, corrupted files, and programs that were never designed for the life you're trying to build now. Let's start with the most fundamental mechanism of autopilot, the loop. Act 1. The loop. The architecture of habit. The human brain is the most complex structure in the known universe. 86 billion neurons, each one connected to thousands of others. The number of possible neural pathways exceeds the number of atoms in the observable universe. And this magnificent machine has one overriding directive: conserve energy. Your brain represents about 2% of your body weight, but consumes roughly 20% of your total energy. That's expensive, evolutionarily expensive. So your brain is constantly looking for ways to do more with less. And it found the ultimate efficiency hack: automation. This is where habits come from. Not from discipline, not from willpower, from your brain's ruthless pursuit of efficiency. Here's how it works. Every behavior you engage in can be broken down into 3 components: the cue, the routine, and the reward. Psychologists call this the habit loop, and it's been running your life since you were an infant. The cue is the trigger. It can be a time of day, a location, an emotional state, a preceding action, the presence of certain people. It's the signal that tells your brain, start this program. The routine is the behavior itself, the action you take in response to the cue. The reward is the payoff, the thing your brain gets that makes it want to repeat this loop again. And here's the critical part. The reward doesn't have to be objectively good for you. It just has to deliver a neurochemical hit that your brain interprets as valuable. Let me show you how this plays out in Kareem's morning. The alarm goes off at 6:45. That's the cue. Kareem's brain recognizes this stimulus. But here's what's actually happening neurologically. The sound of the alarm triggers a cascade of signals. Kareem's amygdala registers the alarm as mildly aversive. His prefrontal cortex, the part of his brain responsible for decision-making and self-control, is barely online. It's sluggish in the morning, running at maybe 40% capacity. So, the decision of what to do next isn't really a decision at all. It's a pattern recognition task. And Kareem's basal ganglia, the part of his brain where habits live, has a strong pattern already established. Cue, alarm sounds. Routine, hit snooze. Reward, immediate relief from the aversive stimulus, plus 9 more minutes of rest. Kareem's prefrontal cortex might weakly protest. We should get up. We have things to do. But it's outgunned. The habit loop is fast, automatic, and requires almost no energy. The conscious decision to override that loop requires significant energy and cognitive resources that aren't available yet. So, Kareem hits snooze. Then the alarm goes off again. Same cue, same routine, same reward, again and again. 3 times. Always 3 times. Why 3? Because that's the pattern. There's no logical reason it's 3 instead of 2 or 4. But the loop has been reinforced enough times that 3 snoozes feel right. It's become part of the routine's structure. By the time Kareem finally gets up at 7:14, he's already lost 3 small battles with his autopilot. And his brain has learned, the autopilot wins. This lesson will echo through the rest of his day. He walks to the kitchen, phone in hand. Another cue. The transition from bedroom to kitchen. The routine, open social media. The reward, small hits of dopamine from notifications, novel information, social validation. Kareem doesn't decide to check his phone. By the time his conscious mind catches up, he's already 3 minutes deep into Instagram. The behavior preceded the decision. Leftover pizza for breakfast, another loop. Cue, hunger plus lack of time. Routine, eat whatever requires 0 preparation. Reward, immediate satisfaction of hunger. By 7:45, Kareem has executed approximately 17 automatic behaviors, 17 loops that ran without conscious input, and every single one of them reinforced the pattern. Autopilot runs the show. Now you might be thinking, but habits can be good, right? Brushing your teeth is a habit. That's fine. And you're correct. Habits are morally neutral. They're neither good nor bad in themselves. They're just efficient. The problem is that your brain doesn't distinguish between habits that serve your long-term goals and habits that undermine them. It just runs the loop that's been established. This is the autopilot paradox in action. The mechanism that allows you to brush your teeth without thinking is the exact same mechanism that makes you hit snooze, eat junk food, and scroll social media when you're meant to be working. And here's where it gets really insidious. Habits compound. In 1936, a psychologist named Clark Hull proposed a mathematical model of habit formation. The formula was simple. Habit strength equals drive multiplied by the number of reinforcements. Modern neuroscience has refined this, but the core principle stays. Every time you execute a behavior loop, you strengthen that neural pathway. And the stronger the pathway, the more automatically it fires. This is neuroplasticity in action. Your brain physically restructures itself based on repeated patterns. The neurons that fire together wire together. Over time, the behaviors you repeat most frequently become literally etched into your neural architecture. Kareem has hit snooze 3 times every morning for approximately 4 years. That's over 4,000 repetitions. That's not a habit anymore. That's infrastructure. That's a neural highway, wide and fast, and so deeply grooved that deviating from it requires enormous effort. And here's what makes this tragic. Kareem has goals. He wants to be healthier. He wants to be more productive. He wants to write that business plan he's been thinking about. But all of those goals require behaviors that exist as barely traveled dirt paths in his brain, while the autopilot behaviors are 6-lane freeways. So every morning he faces the same choice. Take the easy automatic route, or bushwhack through neural underbrush to create a new path. And every morning, the autopilot wins, until he understands how to reprogram the loop. Let's get specific about the neuroscience, because understanding the machinery gives you power over it. When you first learn a behavior, it's controlled by your prefrontal cortex, the executive function center. This requires attention, conscious decision-making, significant cognitive resources. It's slow and energy-intensive. But as you repeat the behavior, control gradually transfers to the basal ganglia, a much older part of your brain that runs largely outside conscious awareness. This is called chunking, the process by which a sequence of actions becomes encoded as a single automatic routine. Think about when you first learned to drive a car. You had to consciously think about every action. Check mirrors, apply pressure to brake, signal, check blind spot. Every step required deliberate attention. Driving a single block was exhausting. Now, you can drive for 20 minutes and barely remember the journey. You were thinking about something else entirely, while your basal ganglia managed the complex sequence of actions needed to operate a vehicle in traffic. That's chunking. That's the loop in action. And it's extraordinarily useful for things like driving. But the same mechanism applies to destructive behaviors. You can chunk procrastination. You can chunk emotional eating. You can chunk avoidance, distraction, self-sabotage. And once these patterns are chunked, they run automatically. There's a researcher at MIT named Anne Graybiel who spent decades studying the neuroscience of habits. Her work with rats revealed something crucial. Once a habit loop is fully formed, the brain stops fully taking part in decision-making. The rat's brain activity spikes at the cue and at the reward, but goes almost quiet during the routine itself. The routine is so automated that the brain barely needs to be involved. It's running on autopilot. And here's the kicker. This applies to humans too. Brain imaging studies show that when people perform habitual behaviors, there's markedly reduced activity in the areas associated with decision-making and conscious control. You're literally not present for significant chunks of your own life. Your body is performing actions, but your conscious mind is elsewhere or nowhere. This is the first prison, the prison of the loop. So how do you break it? How do you reprogram a habit loop that's been running for years, reinforced thousands of times, etched into your neural architecture? Here's what doesn't work. Willpower. Willpower is a resource, not a character trait, and it's a severely limited resource. Studies show that willpower depletes throughout the day. It's highest in the morning and gradually drains with every decision you make. every temptation you resist, every impulse you override. This is why Kareem can resist the office donuts at 9 a.m., but finds himself eating an entire bag of chips at 9 p.m. Not because he's weak, because his willpower tank is empty. So if willpower doesn't work, what does? The answer comes from understanding that you can't actually delete a habit loop. The neural pathway remains. What you can do is reprogram it. Keep the cue and the reward, but change the routine. This is the key insight from Charles Duhigg's research on habit change, building on decades of work in behavioral psychology. The loop structure is stable. The cue triggers a craving for the reward, but the specific routine that delivers that reward is flexible. Let me show you how this works with Kareem. The alarm goes off, that's the cue. The reward is the relief from the aversive alarm sound plus continued rest. The current routine is hitting snooze, but that's not the only routine that could deliver that reward. Here's a different routine. When the alarm goes off, Kareem immediately sits up, puts his feet on the floor and stands. Just stands there for 10 seconds. That's it. No heroic leap out of bed. No dramatic transformation. Just sit up, feet down, stand. This new routine is easy enough that it doesn't require massive willpower, but it disrupts the snooze loop. Once he's standing, Kareem is infinitely more likely to stay awake than if he's still horizontal reaching for the snooze button. After 10 seconds standing, the next routine, walk to the bathroom and splash water on face. Again, simple, achievable. But it moves him further away from the bed and further into wakefulness. The cue stayed the same. The desire for the reward, wakefulness on terms he can manage, stayed the same. But the routine changed, and with it, the entire trajectory of his morning changed. This is looping reprogramming, not deletion, substitution. But here's where most people fail. They try to change too many loops at once. They wake up on January 1st and decide to reprogram their entire life. New morning routine, new diet, new exercise plan, new productivity system. By January 7th, they're back to all the old loops because they depleted their willpower trying to maintain 17 new routines simultaneously. The research is clear. Change one loop at a time. Master it. Let it become automatic. Let it transfer from prefrontal cortex to basal ganglia, and only then add another change. James Clear, in his work on atomic habits, calls this the aggregation of marginal gains. 1% better everyday compounds into a 367% improvement over a year. Not through dramatic transformation, but through the slow, systematic reprogramming of one loop after another. But there's a problem. Even if Kareem successfully reprograms his morning alarm response, he's fighting an uphill battle. Because the loop doesn't exist in isolation. It exists in an environment. And that environment is constantly cueing old behaviors, which brings us to the second prison. Act 2, the environment, the invisible hand that shapes behavior. Let's visit Cosmo's apartment. Imagine walking through the door. Immediately you're struck by the chaos. Shoes scattered in the entryway, mail piled on a small table, bills, flyers, magazines, packages never fully unpacked. Coat hooks that should hold coats, but instead hold a tangle of bags, scarves, and that jacket she wore once 6 months ago. Move into the living space. The coffee table has disappeared under a layer of stuff. Remote controls, notebooks, a laptop charger, 3 coffee mugs in various states of emptiness, a book splayed open face down, papers, pens, a pair of headphones tangled with a phone charging cable. The kitchen counter, dishes in the sink, a cutting board that hasn't been cleaned, containers of takeout, a fruit bowl with a banana that's 3 days past optimal, vitamins she meant to take, more papers, a tablet propped against the wall. Her desk, her workspace, is worst of all. 2 monitors, both covered with sticky notes, stacks of papers, books open to random pages, multiple notebooks started and abandoned, cables everywhere, coffee rings staining documents, a planner that hasn't been touched in weeks. This is not a moral judgment about cleanliness. This is a scientific observation about environment design. Because here's what Cosmo doesn't realize. Every single object in her environment is a cue, and most of those cues trigger loops she doesn't want. There's a concept in psychology called decision fatigue. Every decision you make depletes your cognitive resources. Big decisions, small decisions, they all draw from the same tank. But here's what most people miss. You're making far more decisions than you realize. Because every time you're exposed to a stimulus, your brain has to process it and decide how to respond. And a cluttered environment is an endless stream of stimuli. When Cosmo sits at her desk to work, her conscious intention is to focus on her code. But her visual field is filled with objects. The sticky notes catch her eye. Her brain reads them, processes the information, makes micro-decisions about whether to act on them. The books trigger associations. I should finish that. Decision. Act now or later. The notebook reminds her of the other project. Decision. Switch tasks or stay focused. Multiply this by dozens of objects, hundreds of visual cues, and you understand why Cosmo can sit at her desk for an hour and accomplish almost nothing. She's not lazy. She's drowning in micro-decisions triggered by environmental cues. James Clear talks about this in terms of environment design. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And your environment is the most fundamental system you have. Here's the principle. Every behavior has a friction cost. Make the behavior easier, and you'll do it more. Make it harder, and you'll do it less. Your environment controls friction. Cosmo wants to read more. She has dozens of books, but they're all over the apartment. Spines invisible in piles of other things. When she has a free moment, the friction of finding a book, remembering what she was reading, locating her place, it's too high. So she defaults to her phone. Zero friction, infinite scroll. She wants to eat healthier. But her kitchen is chaos. Healthy ingredients are buried in the back of the fridge. Cooking requires clearing counter space, finding clean dishes, locating the right tools. Friction, extremely high. Ordering takeout. Friction. 3 taps on her phone. So she orders takeout. She wants to exercise. But her running shoes are somewhere in the bedroom closet, buried under other shoes and boxes. Her workout clothes are mixed in with regular clothes, requiring her to dig through drawers. By the time she's found everything, the impulse to exercise has passed. Friction 1. Your environment is not neutral. It's not just a backdrop to your life. It's actively shaping your behavior every single moment through the friction it creates or eliminates. And here's where it gets really profound. Your environment can reprogram your loops faster and more effectively than willpower ever could. There's a famous study from 2003 by Brian Wansink at Cornell. He gave people bowls of soup, but some of the bowls were secretly connected to tubes that slowly refilled them from below. People with the refilling bowls ate 73% more soup than people with normal bowls, and when asked if they were full, they reported the same level of fullness as the control group. The environment, the bowl that never seemed to empty, overrode their internal satiety signals. They ate not because they were hungry, but because the environment cued continued eating. Or consider this study from 2008. Researchers rearranged a hospital cafeteria. They didn't change what was offered. They just moved the water bottles, so they were in more locations, more visible, easier to grab. Water consumption increased by 11%. Soda consumption decreased by 11%. Same people, same choices available, different environment, different behavior. This is the power of environment design. It doesn't feel like you're changing anything dramatic, but you're changing the probability of behaviors. And when you change probability even slightly, compounded over weeks and months, you get dramatically different outcomes. Let's reprogram Cosmo's environment. Start with the workspace. Not the whole apartment, that's overwhelming. Just the desk. Clear it completely. Everything off. Clean the surface. Now rebuild it with intention. The 2 monitors, the keyboard, the mouse, 1 notebook, not 17, 1 for the current project, 1 pen. Everything else? It doesn't get to live on the desk. The books go on a shelf within arm's reach, but not in the primary visual field. The papers get sorted into 3 categories: action needed, reference, and recycling. Action items go in a single inbox that gets processed once a day. Reference materials go in a file system. The rest gets recycled. The sticky notes, the visual chaos of unprocessed decisions, get transferred to a single task management system. Digital or paper, doesn't matter. What matters is that they're out of the visual field and into a system that gets reviewed at a designated time. Now, when Cosmo sits at her desk, there's only one cue in her environment: work. Her brain doesn't have to wade through decision fatigue. The environment has one message: this is where we code. But that's only half the battle, because an environment that supports one behavior must also create friction for competing behaviors. Cosmo's phone is the ultimate low-friction distraction. It sits on her desk, screen up, notifications flashing. Every notification is a cue triggering a loop. Check phone, receive micro-hit of dopamine from novel information, return to work slightly less focused. Repeat every 7 minutes. Solution: the phone doesn't live on the desk. During work time, it goes in a drawer, or better yet, in another room. This creates friction. Now, when Cosmo's brain craves the dopamine hit, it has to overcome the friction of getting up, walking to another room, retrieving the phone. That friction is often enough to break the automatic loop. This isn't about discipline. This isn't about being strong enough to ignore the phone. This is about designing an environment where the desired behavior is low friction and the undesired behavior is high friction. Move to the kitchen. Cosmo wants to eat healthier, so we redesign the environment. Healthy snacks get placed front and center, visible, accessible, zero friction. An apple in a bowl on the counter, baby carrots in a clear container at eye level in the fridge. The takeout menus that live on the counter, they go in a drawer. Meal prep containers get stored in the most accessible cabinet. Cooking tools she uses regularly hang on hooks, visible and grabbable in one motion. The microwave goes on top of the fridge, still accessible but higher friction. Subtle environmental nudges that shift probabilities. The bedroom. Cosmo struggles with sleep. She scrolls her phone in bed for an hour before finally drifting off. The phone is the problem, but the real problem is environmental. The bedroom has become associated with multiple behaviors. Sleeping, yes, but also phone scrolling, watching shows, eating, working. The room has lost its singular cue behavior association. Reprogram. The bedroom is for sleep only. The phone charges outside the bedroom. The laptop is banned. The TV, if she has one, gets removed or covered. This space has one purpose. Over time, the mere act of entering the room becomes a powerful cue for the sleep routine. And here's where it compounds. Better sleep means better prefrontal cortex function the next day, which means better self-control, which means more successful behavior change in other domains. The environment improvement in one area cascades into improvements everywhere else. This is the principle of environmental architecture. Design your spaces to make good behaviors inevitable and bad behaviors inconvenient. But there's a deeper level here. Your environment includes more than physical space. It includes your digital environment, your social environment, the sensory inputs you're exposed to. All of it creates friction or flow for different behaviors. Your phone's home screen is an environment. What apps live there? Every app is a cue. Social media apps are engineered to maximize engagement, to create the tightest possible loop between cue and reward. They're designed by the smartest behavioral psychologists and data scientists in the world to hijack your dopamine system. You cannot out-willpower that design. You can only counter-design your environment. Reprogram. Social media apps don't get to live on the home screen. They get buried in folders requiring extra taps to access. or better yet, removed from the phone entirely and only accessible on a laptop, adding significant friction. The apps that support your goals, they get prominence. Meditation app on the home screen, fitness tracker, Kindle app, news apps from sources that align with learning goals. Your environment now cues the behaviors you want. Your social environment works the same way. There's a famous study by Nicholas Christakis and James Fowler that analyzed social network data from over 12,000 people tracked over 30 years. They found that if your friend becomes obese, your risk of obesity increases by 57%. If your friend's friend becomes obese, your risk increases by 20%. Behaviors spread through social networks like contagions, not because of peer pressure, but because of normalized behavior and shared environmental cues. You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Not metaphorically, literally. Their habits become your habits through environmental exposure and social cueing. This doesn't mean you abandon friends who don't share your goals, but it does mean you intentionally design your social environment. Join communities engaged in behaviors you want to adopt. Spend more time with people already living the patterns you're trying to build. Let their environment of normal become your environmental cues. Cosmo's transformation isn't about becoming a different person. It's about becoming a person shaped by a different environment. And when the environment changes, behavior follows. Not through force, but through friction reduction and smart cue design. But there's still a third prison, because even with reprogrammed loops and an optimized environment, you can still be trapped by something more fundamental, your sense of who you are. Act 3. The identity. The story you tell yourself. Petsy sits in his car in the school parking lot. It's 5:45 p.m. School ended at 3. He's been here all afternoon, helping students, covering for a colleague, organizing the book fair, planning next week's assembly. His phone buzzes. A text from another teacher. "Hey, could you possibly sub my first period tomorrow?" Something came up. Petsy's finger hovers over the keyboard. He's exhausted. He has essays to grade, lessons to plan for his own classes, and tomorrow was supposed to be the morning he finally started writing. He wakes at 5 a.m. every day with the intention of writing before work. And every day, something comes up. Someone needs something. And every day, he says yes. Because that's who Petsy is. That's his identity. He texts back, "Sure, no problem. Happy to help." And another day passes where he doesn't write a single word. Here's a question that seems simple but is actually profound. Who are you? I don't mean your name or job title. I mean your identity. The story you tell yourself about yourself. The narrative that organizes your self-perception. Most people never consciously construct this story. It accumulates. It forms from years of experiences, feedback from others, patterns of behavior that calcify into personality. You are kind because you've done kind things. You are creative because people told you that you were. You are not athletic because you got picked last in gym class in 7th grade. These identity stories feel true. They feel fixed. They feel like discoveries about who you fundamentally are. But here's the reality. Your identity is not discovered. It's constructed. And it's reinforced every day by the behaviors you engage in and the choices you make. This is the deepest level of the autopilot paradox. Your behaviors shape your identity, and then your identity determines your behaviors. It's a closed loop. And for most people, it's a trap. Petsy's identity is helpful. It sounds positive. Who wouldn't want to be helpful? But this identity has become a cage. Every request for help activates his identity, and his identity demands that he say yes. Saying no would create identity dissonance, a psychological discomfort that arises when behavior conflicts with self-concept. So he says yes, and every yes reinforces the identity, and the identity makes the next yes harder to refuse. The loop tightens, and his real goal, drafting his novel, stays perpetually deferred, because writer is not part of his identity. It is aspirational, abstract, someday. The helpful identity is concrete, present, reinforced daily. The person he is prevents him from becoming the person he wants to be. There's a researcher named Katie Milkman at the University of Pennsylvania who studies behavior change. She talks about the fresh start effect, the phenomenon where people are more likely to pursue goal-directed behaviors after temporal landmarks like New Year's, birthdays, or the start of a new semester. Why? Because these landmarks create psychological distance from past failures. They feel like opportunities to start fresh, to be a different person. But the fresh start effect fades quickly. By mid-January, 92% of New Year's resolutions have been abandoned. Why? Because the temporal landmark doesn't actually change identity. The same person who failed before tries again, expecting different results. Real change requires identity change. Not behavior change that might eventually shift identity, but leading with identity reconstruction. Here's the principle. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. One vote doesn't determine the election, but accumulate enough votes and the identity shifts. James Clear articulates this as identity-based habits versus outcome-based habits. Most people focus on outcomes. I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to draft a book. I want to run a marathon. But outcome focus misses the mechanism. Instead, focus on identity. I want to become a healthy person. I want to become a writer. I want to become a runner. The difference seems subtle. It's not. Outcome-based. I want to lose 20 pounds leads to behaviors aimed at the outcome. Restrictive diets, punishing workouts, self-discipline framed as deprivation. And when you hit the goal, if you hit the goal, you often regress because the behaviors weren't rooted in identity. You did the thing to get the outcome, not because it's who you are. Identity-based, I am a healthy person, leads to a different question at every decision point. Not, will this help me lose weight? But, what would a healthy person do? A healthy person eats vegetables, takes stairs, goes to bed at a reasonable hour, not as punishment or sacrifice, but as expressions of identity. And here's where it compounds. Every action that aligns with the identity strengthens the identity. You don't need to be perfect. You just need a majority of your votes to go toward the identity you're constructing. Let's reprogram Petsy's identity. Step 1 is awareness. Petsy needs to see that his current identity is constructed, not inherent. He's not cosmically destined to be the helpful guy. He learned this identity. It was rewarded. It became comfortable. And now it runs automatically. But if it was constructed, it can be deconstructed and rebuilt. Step 2 is definition. Who does Petsy want to be? Not vaguely, specifically. I want to write a novel is an outcome. I am a writer is an identity. But even that's not specific enough. What does a writer do? A writer writes. Every day. Prioritizes writing time. Protects writing time. Says no to things that interfere with writing time. This is the identity definition. And here's the critical part. Petsy doesn't have to feel like a writer. He doesn't have to believe he's good enough to be a writer. He just has to behave like a writer. Because identity follows behavior, not the other way around. Step 3 is the accumulation of evidence. Every action is a vote. Petsy writes for 15 minutes before school. That's a vote for I am a writer. He says no to covering someone else's class so he can write. That's a vote for I am a writer. He's not going to feel like a writer immediately. The old identity, I am helpful, has years of reinforcement. But every vote for the new identity weakens the old one and strengthens the new one. There's neuroscience supporting this. When you engage in a behavior that aligns with your self-concept, your brain's reward centers light up. You get a hit of dopamine. This reinforces the behavior, yes, but it also reinforces the identity associated with that behavior. But there's a challenge. Identity change creates discomfort. When Petsy says no to a request for help, he experiences cognitive dissonance. His behavior, saying no, conflicts with his identity. I am helpful. This dissonance is psychologically painful. Most people resolve this dissonance by reverting to behavior that matches the old identity. Sorry, actually I can help after all. The discomfort disappears. The identity stays unchanged. But there's another way to resolve dissonance. Change the identity. Reframe "I am helpful" to "I am a writer who sometimes helps others." Or even better, "I help people most effectively by becoming the writer I'm capable of being, which requires protecting my writing time." This reframe maintains the positive aspects of the old identity while creating space for the new one. The helpful identity doesn't have to die. It just has to become subordinate to the writer identity. Let's talk about how this works at a systems level. Your brain has what psychologists call a self-schema, a cognitive structure that organizes information about yourself. This schema acts as a filter. Information consistent with your self-schema gets noticed, remembered, and reinforced. Information inconsistent with it gets dismissed or forgotten. If Petsy's self-schema says, "I am not a writer," then every failed writing attempt gets encoded as evidence confirming the identity. Every day he doesn't write reinforces, "See, I'm not a writer." But flip the schema. "I am a writer" becomes the frame. Now every day he writes, even just 15 minutes, gets encoded as identity-confirming evidence. And the days he doesn't write get reframed. Not as "I'm not a writer," but as "I'm a writer who didn't write today. Tomorrow I'll return to my practice." The behavior doesn't change overnight, but the interpretation of the behavior changes immediately. And over time, interpretation shapes behavior more powerfully than willpower ever could. There's a study from 2011 by Christopher Bryan at Stanford. He surveyed people before an election and asked about their voting intentions, but he split participants into two groups. Group 1 was asked, "How important is it to you to vote in tomorrow's election?" Group 2 was asked, "How important is it to you to be a voter in tomorrow's election?" One word different. Vote versus voter. Behavior versus identity. The result? Group 2, the identity frame group, showed significantly higher turnout. The identity question activated their self-concept. Voting became not just an action, but an expression of who they are. This is the leverage point. Change behavior by changing identity. Or more precisely, change identity by reframing behaviors as votes for your new identity. Petsy starts writing 15 minutes every morning before school. The first week is hard. The old identity resists. He gets requests to help, and saying no feels wrong. His brain screams dissonance, but he writes anyway. 15 minutes. That's one vote for "I am a writer." The second week, slightly easier. The pattern is forming. The loop is beginning to transfer from prefrontal cortex to basal ganglia. It's becoming less decision and more routine. By week 4, something shifts. A colleague asks him to take on an extra task, and Petsy hears himself say, "I can't, I have my morning writing practice." The words come out almost automatically, and he realizes that's true. He has a writing practice. He's a person who writes. The identity is starting to stick. 3 months in, Petsy has written every weekday morning. Not every day is productive. Some mornings he stares at the screen. Some mornings he writes garbage. But he shows up. And every show up is a vote. The math: 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week, for 12 weeks. That's 900 minutes. 15 hours of writing. And more importantly, 60 votes for "I am a writer." Is the novel done? No. But the writer identity is solidifying. And that identity will carry him through the next 12 weeks, and the 12 after that. Because he's not trying to draft a novel through discipline. He's writing because that's what writers do. And he's a writer. That's identity-based change. It's slower than outcome-based motivation. But it's permanent. Because you can't lose an identity. It becomes who you are. Act 4. The Convergence. When the systems align. Now here's where it gets powerful. Because these 3 systems, the loop, the environment, the identity, don't work independently. They interact, they amplify each other. And when you align all 3, you create exponential change. Let's see what happens when Kareem, Cosmo, and Petsy don't just change one system, but all 3. Kareem, 6 months later. His alarm goes off at 6:45, but he doesn't hear it from bed. He's already awake. Because 3 months ago, he moved the alarm clock across the room. Environmental design. Create friction for snoozing. He gets up, walks to the alarm, turns it off. While he's up, he puts on the workout clothes that he laid out the night before. Zero friction. The environment cues exercise. He drinks the glass of water that's waiting on his nightstand. This triggers the morning routine loop. Water, bathroom, workout clothes, out the door. 20 minutes later, he's at the gym. Not for a heroic 2-hour workout, for 30 minutes. Achievable, sustainable, but consistent. Why? Because Kareem's identity has shifted. He's not someone trying to get in shape. He's an athlete. That's the identity. And athletes train. Not when it's convenient. Not when they feel like it. They train because that's what athletes do. The loop. Alarm, cue, exercise routine, behavior. Endorphins plus identity reinforcement. Reward. The environment. Workout clothes ready, gym bag packed, route to gym practiced and automatic. The identity. I am an athlete. After 3 months of votes, 90 gym sessions, the identity isn't aspirational anymore. It's real. Kareem introduced himself to someone last week as, "I'm Kareem, I work in marketing, but I'm really focused on my fitness right now." The identity has become primary. And here's what happened as a result. His nutrition improved. Not because he forced himself onto a restrictive diet, but because his identity asked, "What does an athlete eat?" He starts meal prepping. He cuts back on the leftover pizza breakfasts, not through deprivation, but through identity alignment. His sleep improved. Athletes need recovery. So he starts going to bed earlier. The environment supports this. He moved the TV out of his bedroom 2 months ago. The phone charges in the bathroom. Bedroom is for sleep only. The systems reinforce each other. Better sleep means better willpower. Better willpower means better ability to maintain new loops. Better loops mean more identity-confirming votes. Stronger identity means behaviors feel natural rather than forced. Kareem isn't perfect. He misses gym days. He eats junk food sometimes. But the trajectory has changed. The autopilot has been reprogrammed. And the program is running in his favor now. Cosmo 6 months later. Her apartment looks different. Not magazine perfect, but functional. Clear surfaces. Designated places for everything. Visual calm. Her desk. 2 monitors, keyboard, 1 notebook, 1 mug of coffee. That's it. The environment sends one message. This is for deep work. She sits down at 8 a.m. Her phone is in a drawer in the kitchen. Her laptop has website blockers active during work hours. The friction for distraction is high. The friction for focused work is 0. She works for 90 minutes without interruption, then takes a 15-minute break. This is the loop she's built. Start time, cue, deep work session, routine, break plus progress on meaningful project, reward. After 3 months of this practice, something remarkable happened. The scattered, distracted version of Cosmo started to fade. A new identity appeared. I am someone who does deep work. This identity was built on evidence. 90 days of focused work sessions, that's 90 votes. The identity is now self-reinforcing. When distractions arise, her identity responds. I do deep work. Distractions are for other people. The environment supports the identity. Clear space equals clear mind. The visual calm of her apartment no longer triggers decision fatigue. She has cognitive resources available for actual work. And the work itself has transformed. 3 months ago, Cosmo had 17 partially completed projects. Now she has 3, and she's completing them. Because the identity isn't, I start things, it's, I finish things. Different identity, different behaviors, different outcomes. The loop, the environment, the identity, all aligned, all reinforcing each other. Cosmo didn't become a different person. She became the person the systems were designed to create. Petsy, 6 months later. He's written 40,000 words of his novel. It's messy. Parts of it are terrible. But it exists. Because Petsy exists differently now. The identity shift was the hardest for him. The helpful identity had decades of reinforcement. But he started small, one vote at a time. I'm a writer became his filter for decisions. When asked to take on extra commitments, he asked, what would a writer do? A writer protects his writing time. So Petsy started saying no. The first no was agonizing. The cognitive dissonance was intense, but he pushed through and discovered something. The world didn't end. The person he said no to found someone else. The school survived, and Petsy had his morning, and he wrote. The loop. 5 a.m. wake, cue. Write for 90 minutes, routine. Progress on novel plus identity reinforcement, reward. After 2 months, the loop became automatic. His brain now wakes up at 4:57 before the alarm. The loop is that ingrained. The environment. His writing space is sacred. Desk cleared the night before. Coffee maker on a timer. Door closed. Phone in another room. The environment has one purpose. Help writing. And the identity, I am a writer, has become his primary identity. Not, I am a teacher who wants to write. Not, I am working on a novel. But present tense, I am a writer. He introduces himself differently now. He thinks about himself differently. And most importantly, he behaves differently. The behaviors flow from the identity, and the identity is reinforced by the behaviors. When his principal asked him to chair a committee last month, Petsy said, I appreciate the confidence, but I have to decline. My writing practice is my priority right now, and I need to protect that time. The old Petsy would never have said that. The old identity wouldn't have allowed it. But the new identity demanded it. The systems aligned. Loop, environment, identity, all pointing in the same direction. And in that alignment, transformation became inevitable. Act 5, the Reprogramming Manual, your blueprint for change. So now you understand the 3 prisons, the loop that runs automatically, the environment that shapes behavior invisibly, and the identity that determines what's possible. And you've seen how reprogramming each system creates change. But more importantly, you've seen how aligning all 3 systems creates transformation. Now let's get tactical. Let's build your reprogramming manual. Step 1. Audit your autopilot. You can't reprogram what you don't see. Most people are completely unaware of the loops running their lives. So start with awareness. For 1 week, track your automatic behaviors. Not all of them, that's impossible. But the big ones, the behaviors that consume time and don't align with your goals. Use this framework. What behavior am I trying to change? What's the cue that triggers it? What's the routine? What reward am I actually getting? Be honest about the reward. The reward isn't what you think you should be getting. It's what your brain is actually getting. If you scroll social media when you should be working, the reward isn't productivity. It's distraction from discomfort, novelty, social validation. Once you've found the loop, you can reprogram it. Remember, keep the cue and reward. Change the routine. Step 2. Redesign one environment. Don't try to overhaul your entire life at once. Pick one environment. One physical space that's critical to a goal you have. If your goal is health, redesign your kitchen. If your goal is productivity, redesign your workspace. If your goal is better sleep, redesign your bedroom. Use the friction framework. What behaviors do I want to increase? Reduce friction for those. What behaviors do I want to decrease? Increase friction for those. Make desired behaviors so easy they're almost inevitable. Make undesired behaviors require enough effort that the autopilot can't execute them. And here's key. Redesign the environment before you need it to work. Don't try to resist the cookie jar through willpower. Remove the cookie jar, or put it in the basement, or replace it with a fruit bowl. The environment wins. Design it to make victory automatic. Step 3. Define your identity. Who do you want to become? Not what do you want to achieve, who do you want to be? Write it down. Present tense. I am an identity. I am a writer. I am an athlete. I am a focused person. I am someone who finishes what they start. Now define what that identity does. Be specific. A writer writes daily. An athlete trains consistently. A focused person protects their attention. Someone who finishes things works on one project at a time until completion. These behaviors become your votes. Every time you execute the behavior, you're voting for the identity. You need a majority of votes, not unanimity, not perfection, just a majority. James Clear suggests the 2-minute rule. When building a new identity-confirming behavior, start so small it takes less than 2 minutes. Not write for 2 hours. Start with write for 2 minutes. Why? Because the goal isn't the output. The goal is the vote. The goal is to be the type of person who writes daily. The person who shows up. The person whose identity is writer. 2 minutes is enough to cast that vote. And once the identity solidifies, the duration expands naturally. Step 4. Link the systems. Now here's where transformation accelerates. Link the 3 systems together. Design your environment to cue your desired loop. Structure your loop to reinforce your chosen identity. Let your identity guide your environment design. Example: you want to become a reader. Identity: I am a reader. Behavior loop: read for 15 minutes before bed. Environment design: book on nightstand, 0 friction. Phone charges outside bedroom, friction for competing behavior. Good lighting by bed, environment supports reading. Comfortable chair or pillow setup, reward is maximized. The environment cues the behavior. The behavior reinforces the identity. The identity strengthens commitment to maintaining the environment and executing the loop. It's a positive feedback system. Each element amplifies the others. Step 5. Track your votes. Remember, identity is built through accumulated evidence. You need to make the evidence visible. Use a simple tracking system. A calendar where you mark each day you executed the identity-confirming behavior. A journal where you note your votes. An app that tracks streaks. The tracking serves 2 purposes. First, it provides psychological reinforcement. Seeing a chain of successful days makes you not want to break the chain. Second, it provides concrete evidence of your identity. I am a writer isn't aspirational when you have 90 consecutive days of writing tracked. It's documented fact. And here's critical. When you miss a day, which you will, don't let it become 2 days. The research is clear. Missing once is a lapse. Missing twice is the beginning of a new pattern. Get back on track immediately. Your identity can absorb occasional lapses. It can't absorb sustained regression. Step 6. Protect the system. Once you've built your aligned system, loop, environment, identity, you must protect it, because the world will constantly try to disrupt it. People will make requests on your time. Opportunities will arise that don't align with your identity. Your old autopilot will try to reassert itself. This is where identity becomes your shield. When disruptions arise, ask, does this align with the person I'm becoming? If yes, integrate it. If no, decline it. Not with guilt, not with elaborate justification. Simply, that doesn't align with my priorities right now. Your system is more valuable than any individual opportunity, because your system is producing the person capable of capitalizing on opportunities. Protect the system, and the outcomes take care of themselves. Let us talk about the timeline, because this is where most people fail. They expect transformation to be fast. They've been sold the lie of overnight change, biohacks, 7-minute solutions to life problems. Real transformation is slow. Slower than you want, but faster than you fear. Here's what the research tells us. Simple habit loops take an average of 66 days to become automatic. Complex behaviors take longer. Identity shifts take longer still. But here's what also happens. You feel different long before the process is complete. Within 2 weeks of consistent identity-confirming votes, you'll notice a shift in how you think about yourself. Within 30 days, other people will notice changes in your behavior. Within 90 days, the new patterns feel more natural than forced. And within 6 months to a year, assuming you've aligned loop, environment, and identity, you'll look back and barely recognize the person you were. Not because you've become someone else, but because you've become the person your systems were designed to create. Act 6. The paradox resolved. We started with the autopilot paradox. The more efficiently your brain runs your life, the less of your life you're living. But now you understand. The paradox isn't that autopilot exists. Autopilot is inevitable. Your brain will always seek efficiency. It will always automate repeated behaviors. You cannot eliminate autopilot. The resolution to the paradox is this. You get to choose what's on autopilot. Right now, for most people, autopilot is running programs installed by accident, by circumstance, by past versions of themselves with different goals and different constraints. The autopilot is optimized for a life they don't want. But you can reprogram it, deliberately, systematically. One loop at a time, one environmental redesign at a time, one identity-confirming vote at a time. And when you do, something extraordinary happens. Autopilot doesn't become your enemy. It becomes your ally. The person you want to become, healthier, more focused, more creative, more disciplined, that person needs thousands of small decisions executed consistently. No one has enough willpower for that. Willpower is a limited resource. Autopilot is infinite. So you reprogram the autopilot to execute those decisions automatically. And then the person you want to become appears not through constant struggle, but through aligned systems running in the background. You become the person your autopilot creates. So, create the autopilot that builds the person you want to be. Kareem stands in front of his bathroom mirror. It's 6 a.m. He's been up for 15 minutes. He just finished his workout. In 30 minutes, he'll be at work. But he's not rushed. He's not stressed. His morning routine runs automatically now. He doesn't have to think about it. The autopilot manages it. And for the first time in years, Kareem feels like he's living his life instead of watching it happen to him. Cosmo sits at her desk. Her workspace is clear. Her mind is clear. She's 3 hours into focused work, and she's solved a problem that's been blocking her project for weeks. The solution appeared because she had the mental space for it to appear. That mental space exists because her environment stopped screaming distractions at her. She's not fighting to focus anymore. Focus is her default. The autopilot runs deep work. And in that deep work, she's building something that matters. Petsy saves his manuscript. 60,000 words now. He'll finish the first draft in another month. Then revision. Then he'll see if it's any good. It is. It isn't. But that's not the point. The point is, he wrote it. He became a writer. Not someday. Not eventually. Now. Present tense. Real. The novel is evidence of the identity. But the identity is the real achievement. Because the identity will produce the next novel and the one after that. The writer identity is permanent. The autopilot is reprogrammed. 3 people, 3 transformed lives. Not through willpower, not through motivation. Through systems. Through aligned autopilots running programs they chose, in environments they designed, creating identities they defined. The paradox is resolved. They're on autopilot, and they're more alive than ever. So, here's my question for you. The same question I asked at the beginning, but now you can answer it differently. Who are you? Not who were you yesterday. Not who you think you should be. Who are you becoming right now through the systems running your life? Because make no mistake, there are systems running, loops executing, environments shaping behavior, identities determining what's possible. The only question is, did you design them? Or did they design you? If you don't like the answer, you have the tools now. You understand the 3 systems. You know how to audit them, reprogram them, align them. The loop can be changed. One substituted routine at a time. The environment can be redesigned. One friction adjustment at a time. The identity can be reconstructed. One vote at a time. This isn't theory. This isn't motivation. This is engineering. Systems engineering for human behavior. And the research is overwhelming. It works. Not perfectly, not magically, but reliably, predictably, measurably. You are the person your autopilot creates. So the most important question you'll ever ask yourself is, what am I programming my autopilot to create? Answer that question. Then build the systems. Then get out of the way and let the systems run. 6 months from now, you'll barely recognize yourself. Because the person you're becoming is running on different code. Code you wrote. Code that aligns with the life you want to live. The autopilot paradox isn't a trap. It's an opportunity. The most powerful tool you have for transformation is the same tool that's been keeping you stuck. You just must learn to program it. So, start today, not tomorrow. Today, one loop, one environment, one vote for your new identity. The autopilot is listening. What are you going to tell it to do? This is the autopilot paradox. And now, you know how to solve it. I'm Think Glent. Keep thinking.